theoretical models. The loop is relentless: build, test, fail, fix. But what happens when you take this digital philosophy and apply it to the physical world? To tons of stainless steel, complex plumbing, and immensely powerful engines. SpaceX applied that loop to hardware at an unprecedented scale, treating rockets less like priceless monolithic artifacts and more like iterative software builds. This was a radical departure from the established norms of aerospace engineering. For generations, government programs like NASA, driven by the immense responsibility of human spaceflight, optimized for zero failure. When lives are on the line, you simply cannot afford for things to go wrong. The cost of a single failure is catastrophic, not just in financial terms, but in human life and national prestige. This led to a culture of extreme caution. Every component is subjected to exhaustive ground tests. Every system has double or triple redundancy. Computer simulations are run for years, trying to predict every possible point of failure before a single bolt is fastened. This method produces incredibly reliable machines. It works, but it is slow. Development cycles are measured in decades, and costs can spiral into the billions. The process is designed to avoid failure at all costs, which inherently slows down the pace of learning. The fail-fast philosophy flips this script entirely. It prioritizes real-world data over theoretical perfection. It accepts that some questions can only be answered in flight. A flawless mission where everything works exactly as predicted can sometimes teach you less than a spectacular failure. When a prototype explodes, it's not just a loss, it's a massive, instantaneous data dump. The sensors on board capture thousands of channels of data, right up to the moment of disintegration. This telemetry tells engineers exactly what went wrong, under what conditions, and at what precise millisecond. It reveals the true limits of the materials, the unknown dynamics of atmospheric re-entry, the subtle vibrations that can tear a machine apart. These are lessons learned not in simulation, but in the unforgiving classroom of reality. This approach validates everything: the Raptor engines, the stainless steel alloys, the complex flight software, the heat shield tiles, not in isolated tests, but as part of an integrated system, battling the actual forces of launch and flight. It's a trade-off. Short-term public relations hits and spectacular fireballs are exchanged for an accelerated long-term development timeline. The goal isn't to win every test, it's to get to Mars in years, not generations. This philosophy requires a unique organizational structure. SpaceX's vertical integration, where they design, build, and test almost everything in-house, is critical. It allows them to react instantly. When a test reveals a flaw in a flap actuator or a fuel line, the design team, manufacturing floor, and test site are all part of the same rapid feedback loop. There are no lengthy procurement processes or inter-company negotiations. The result is a production line that resembles a car factory more than a traditional rocket facility. New vehicles, incorporating the lessons learned from the last rapid unscheduled disassembly or RUD, are ready to fly in months, not years. Each attempt brings progress. Perfection is achieved not by avoiding mistakes, but through a relentless series of successive improvements. This iterative process systematically turns the vast uncertainty of building a new class of vehicle into concrete engineering knowledge. It's a high-stakes, high-visibility gamble, but for a dream as audacious as a city on Mars, it may be the only way to build the dream machine fast enough. However, this aggressive strategy is not without immense danger. Pushing the boundaries of physics and engineering, this quickly introduces a whole new category of risks. To build a rocket of this scale is to wage a war against physics, where thousands of potential failures lurk in every component. The risks are not just numerous, they are monumental, woven into the very fabric of Starship's design. Let's break down the biggest technical hurdles, the dragons that SpaceX must slay with every single flight. First, the engine cluster. At the base of the Super Heavy booster sit 33 Raptor engines. On liftoff, all of them must ignite in a perfectly controlled sequence, ramp up to millions of pounds of thrust, and then steer in unison to keep the colossal stack stable. This is an orchestral performance of fire and steel. The system is designed with engine-out capability, meaning it can theoretically suffer 1 or 2 engine failures and still complete its mission. But this is no simple matter. The flight computer must instantly detect the failure and command the remaining engines to adjust their thrust and gimbal angles to compensate. A miscalculation or a failure in a critical location can unbalance the vehicle, inducing a catastrophic tumble, leading to a complete loss of control. Then there's the specter of pogo oscillation, a nightmare for rocket engineers. This is a violent, self-reinforcing vibration where pressure fluctuations in the propellant feed lines resonate with the rocket's natural structural frequency. It's like a giant tuning fork shaking itself apart. Unchecked, pogo can literally tear a vehicle to pieces in mid-air, a problem that plagued even the mighty Saturn V. Next, the separation of the stages. Starship employs a technique called hot staging. Instead of the booster shutting down and separating before the ship ignites, the ship's engines fire to the booster. The exhaust is vented through a specially designed ring. This maneuver provides a gravity-defying continuous push, improving efficiency. But the risk is immense. The violent blast of plasma and acoustic energy could critically damage the booster's engines or structure. It's a controlled explosion, executed at hypersonic speed, miles above the Earth. After its journey in orbit, the ship faces its trial by fire, atmospheric re-entry. The thermal protection system, the heat shield, is all that stands between the vehicle and annihilation. As Starship slams into the atmosphere at nearly 18,000 miles per hour, friction generates temperatures of thousands of degrees, turning the air around it into a searing plasma. The shield is made of thousands of individual silica tiles. These tiles must first endure the violent vibrations of ascent, then survive the differential expansion and contraction between the cold of space and the blistering heat of re-entry. Each tile is a potential point of failure. The attachment mechanism must be strong enough to hold on, yet flexible enough to allow the steel hull beneath to flex without shattering the brittle ceramic. A few failures, a few missing or damaged tiles, can create a gap. This allows the superheated plasma to bypass the shield and cut through the stainless steel structure like a blowtorch. We have seen the tragic consequences of heat shield failure before, with the Space Shuttle Columbia. It is a lesson written in the hardest way imaginable. And if the ship survives re-entry, the landing is perhaps the most audacious maneuver of all. It falls horizontally, using its 4 massive flaps to steer through the air like a skydiver, precisely controlling its descent path. These flaps are subjected to incredible aerodynamic forces. The failure of a single actuator, the brain or muscle that moves a flap, could send the ship into an unrecoverable flat spin. Then, in the final moments, it must perform the landing flip. In just a few seconds, it must swing its entire 120-ton mass from a horizontal belly flop to a vertical tail-down orientation, and execute a pinpoint landing burn to gently set down. The timing of the engine ignition, the throttle control, the software commands, all must be absolutely flawless. Any error here, even for a fraction of a second, means total and catastrophic loss. Beyond these big, dramatic systems, countless small parts can doom a mission. The propellants, liquid methane and liquid oxygen, are cryogenic, existing at hundreds of degrees below freezing. This extreme cold can make materials brittle and cause seals to leak. A single stuck valve can prevent propellant flow. A faulty sensor can feed bad data to the flight computer. A leaky seal can release flammable gas. In such a complex machine, failures often cascade. A small hydraulic leak can disable a flap actuator, leading to loss of control. An avionics glitch can disrupt engine timing, causing an explosion. The entire flight is a chain of dependencies, and it is only as strong as its weakest link. This entire iterative test campaign exists for one reason: to find those weak links in the unforgiving environment of a real flight, and to hunt them down, one explosive lesson at a time. SpaceX values time over money. Early failures prevent later disasters. Each destroyed prototype costs millions, but within a multi-decade Mars plan, it buys speed. Better a fuel pump fail over a deserted coast than halfway to Mars with crew. Every RUD yields immense high-fidelity data. Loads, pressures, performance under stress, cryogenic behavior. Data feeds back into design and manufacturing immediately. Designing and building in-house cuts delays. When a flaw appears, engineers walk across the floor and change it. Tight feedback loops power rapid innovation. Each explosion is information. Safety bought early, and the next launch gets better. Time is the one resource they cannot manufacture. As the dust settles from another test, another explosion, another step forward, we are left facing an immense, almost existential gamble. This isn't just about one rocket, it's about an entire philosophy. This program is testing a new kind of vehicle, yes, but it's also stress testing a radical new way to invent. It's a high-stakes experiment in engineering, manufacturing, and ambition itself, played out on a global stage for all to see. Every weld, every line of code, Every engine ignition carries the weight of this monumental bet. The question is no longer they can build it, but what happens when they succeed, or if they fail. The outcome looks increasingly binary, with very little middle ground. There is no partial victory here. Either this colossal machine fundamentally re-engineers our relationship with space, and in turn, changes the course of human development, or it becomes the most spectacular, most expensive, and most public failed experiment in the history of technology. A monument to overreach, a multi-billion-dollar cautionary tale etched in stainless steel and shattered dreams visible from orbit. Let's consider the first path. Success. If Starship achieves its core promise of becoming a fully and rapidly reusable super heavy lift launch vehicle, the consequences are staggering. It wouldn't just incrementally lower launch costs, it would crater them. We're talking about a paradigm shift, a fundamental disruption of the entire aerospace industry. The cost to place a kilogram into orbit could fall by orders of magnitude, potentially making access to space thousands of times cheaper than it is today. This isn't just an economic shift, it's a philosophical one. It transforms space from a destination for the few, for priceless national assets, into a domain for the many. What does that world look like? It means deploying next-generation satellite constellations at a scale previously unimaginable, finally delivering on the promise of robust, global high-speed internet for every corner of the Earth. It means near-instantaneous point-to-point travel on Earth, turning a 15-hour flight into a 45-minute suborbital hop. The world would shrink in a way it hasn't since the dawn of the jet age. For science, it's a renaissance. We could launch massive scientific instruments into space, telescopes with mirrors so large they could directly image exoplanets, or orbital laboratories with the volume of a small office building. It would open up our solar system to exploration and, eventually, industry. Regular affordable transport to the moon and Mars would no longer be science fiction, it would be logistics. But then there is the other path. The path of failure. If it fails, the vision shatters. And failure doesn't have to be a single catastrophic event. It can be a death by 1,000 cuts. The pillars of this grand vision, reliable mass engine ignition, flawless stage separation, surviving the brutal physics of re-entry, perfecting the landing, and achieving rapid airline-like reuse, are all interconnected. If any one of these unsolved technical pillars proves to be insurmountable, economically unviable, or simply too unreliable, the entire structure can break. A failure of this magnitude wouldn't just be a setback for one company, it could poison the well for a generation, setting back humanity's deep space ambitions for years, perhaps decades. It would become the ultimate cautionary tale of ambition outpacing reality, a story told by engineers to warn against hubris. The political and financial fallout could make investors and governments risk-averse, retreating to the perceived safety of traditional, expensive, and slow-moving space programs. The dream of a multi-planetary species would recede back into the distant future. This question, this binary choice between revolution and ruin, hangs over every launch, every static fire, and every spectacular explosion. The cycle of fire, repair, reflight, is not just an engineering methodology, it's an act of faith. We are witnessing more than just rocket tests. We are watching a high-stakes bet on the future being placed again and again. So, will this steel giant, forged in the Texas sun and born of relentless iteration, be the vehicle that finally carries us to the stars in a meaningful way? Or will its rusted skeleton one day serve as a warning to those who dare to dream too big, too fast? The answer is being written, one fiery test at a time.